From the time she was born, the odds were stacked against our next guest. She came from an impoverished small village in India where food and water were scarce. She and her family lived in a hut. It was 10 by 10, sleeping on the mud floor. Then when she was just 4, an opportunity arose that would change her life. She was invited to a school specifically designed to help families rise out of generational poverty. You can see her story as part of the Netflix series Daughters of Destiny. We're happy to have her here as part of Women's History Month. Let's welcome Shilpa, along with the founder of the Shanti Bhavan Children's Project, who's also just written a best-selling memoir called Mountains to Cross about his journey to build the school, Dr. Abraham George. Give it up for him, y'all. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
And Dr. George as well. This
You
is
look
a dream
beautiful.
come true.
We've all been obsessing on your outfit. But tell us about your childhood. Tell us before the school. What happened?
Yes, Kelly. So I was born into a really small, destitute village in South India. And for generations before me, people struggled in my family because we were caught, we were trapped in a vicious cycle of poverty as well as severe social discrimination that was, directed towards our family because we belonged to a lower caste within the Indian caste system.
Yeah.
And as a child, I grew up there witnessing domestic violence, chronic alcoholism, and, the social indignity that my family faced at the hands of landlords and upper castemen. So for a child born into such a community, you needed nothing short of a miracle to help you rise above it.
Yeah, well, Yeah, so tell us how everything changed in 1995, right?
Yes.
Everything changed, and explain about what happened.
Yes, so when I was born, my father ordered that I be thrown away because I was a girl. And in our community, girls... Yes. It's very common. It's a common social struggle for girls back in India who are born into poor communities. And so he ordered that I be thrown away because I was a girl. And luckily, that didn't happen. So if I had lived on in the village, like my mother and those before her, I would have either been, married off really at a young age, probably to a relative, and I would have been trapped under the patriarchal system. But thank God for Shanti Bhavan and this man over here, that my life changed in an incredible and unforgettable way. So when I was 4 years old, Dr. George had started this school called Shanti Bhavan. It was a program that targeted empowering the poorest. And he was looking for 3.5 to 4-year-olds who he could admit into his program and house them as well as educate them and carry them through from the very first day of preschool to the first day they entered the workplace. And my father saw in Shanti Bhavan this incredible opportunity for not just me, but the rest of the family as well. And he chose to let me go.
Yeah.
And I had never seen a cot before, never slept on a cot. My whole family and I, we were used to huddling on the floor and sleeping on the floor together. I had never walked on a paved floor or even seen soap or had running water. So the first day and the days to come brought with it a whole string of firsts for me, like having 5 meals a day for the first time, never having to worry about where my next meal was going to come from.
Yeah.
And as days passed and grew into months and eventually years, I became part of this wonderful community of caregivers, teachers, and peers who, like me, had been the chosen one.
This is incredible. Dr. George, okay, you're the founder of Shanti Bhavan, so explain how the school works. How did you come up with this idea? This is a huge, she just said, so what that they're gonna do is take you from this age to this age. That's a huge commitment to be able to, and it takes a lot of money, takes a lot of people, takes a lot of time.
And heart.
Yeah.
That's true, that's true. But my story goes back to my younger days. I was in the military. I was an officer in the Indian Army, and I was sent up to the Himalayas, bordering China, actually. India had a war with China, and I was sent up there to an altitude of 14,000 feet, very cold, sub-zero temperatures and so on. And my job was with the soldiers dig bunkers and so on in the rock, in the Himalayan, mountains. And 11 months after I went there, I was blown up in a dynamite explosion. And I survived by a fraction of a second. I noticed that it was going to blast, and I turned around and jumped, and it happened. And I asked myself, lying in the hospital bed, why was I saved? And I made up my mind at that time that I should, at some point, devote my life to serving other people. But then I also was practical. I said, well, unless I have money, I can't do any of those things.
Yeah.
So a couple of years later, I got discharged from the military. I had some hearing problem. And then I came to America, the land of promise,
Yeah.
and went to school, NYU, and did some graduate work and work for JP Morgan. And then I started my own company. So I had decided in my mind that I will serve people from the poorest to the poor. And so the idea of starting a school came about. And I came to India from Wall Street. I sold all my business, everything I had, and came to a remote village. And ever since, for the last 30 years, I've been living in the school. I come for 2 months and be with my wife. And so that is our lifestyle.
While you were in school, you wrote a memoir about your experience, right?
Yes, Kelly.
When did you kind of decide to start doing that?
At 15.
All right.
And as a teenager, you're already going through a lot to begin with. And then when you're living in two contrasting worlds, you have so many questions as to why your world is the way it is and where's your place? Like, where do you belong? Do I fit in best with my community back in my hometown? Or do I belong to the world that Shanti Bhavan is opening up for me?
Yeah.
And I was in trying to navigate all these questions and trying to understand who I was as an individual. I started journaling. Like at the school, we were introduced to journaling as a tool to cope with, our emotional struggles.
Yeah.
And the process of
That's why I started writing music. Yeah, it's just to process everything that's going on in your world.
Absolutely.
It's so smart.
To make sense of these experiences. And the end result is the book that came about called The Elephant Chaser's Daughter, which Dr. George was very supportive of me, putting together. And he and the staff recognized that I had a skill for writing, and they encouraged that. So I not just found my voice as an individual, but also as an author. Through my book, I feel confident that I've been able to reach out to other girls who have been in similar circumstances, and that makes me really proud.
Yeah, be a light. Like there's another side to this story.
If I may, she hasn't said everything about what she did. She did 2 masters and she's finishing a PhD
Oh my God! I tell you what, if I had any of that, I would have led with that. I'd have been like, so here's what I did. That's incredible. You're still writing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I still journal every day.
Yeah. You say Shilpa's experience at the school is pretty typical, right?
Yes.
That's an incredible thing you're doing for so many people.
The joy is in the children like her, what they have accomplished. Just so that I may, continue on that, there are some 600-700 kids have gone through the school. And there are a number of them in the United States, gone to Stanford, Duke, Middlebury, University of Chicago, all these great schools. And from one-room hut, they are there.
Yeah.
So, I often tell people, what is missing is opportunity. And it doesn't matter where you came from. And Shilpa, it doesn't matter whether she was in poverty at one stage. Today, look at her. Offer opportunity and they will succeed, and that's my joy,
He indoctrinated us with that belief, like right from early on. Like he would talk to us saying, children, where you came from does not have to determine where you are going to go. And
which is so powerful. That message is so powerful for kids that look around and go, I don't know, man. This might be it, Like,
absolutely.
oh my gosh, y'all got me today. Wow, unwell. It's so beautiful. It's happy tears. Well, we love how Shanti Bhavan is changing lives, and anyone watching this with a heart does as well. So does our season-long partner, Pilot Pen, makers of the G2, the go-to pen of the Kelly Clarkson Show, y'all. And to help in your unstoppable efforts, they're donating $5,000 to the Shanti Bhavan Children's Project. I'm gonna double that. I'm gonna put money in too, because I think it's just, look, this is the fruits of, your efforts and everything. This is such a beautiful thing. This is one of many, lives that you've changed. And to learn more about the Shanti Bhavan Children's Project, go to our social media, y'all. And you can find Dr. George's book, Mountains to Cross, wherever books are sold. All proceeds from the book go, of course they do. You are such a good dude. All proceeds from the book go to support Shanti Bhavan Children's Project. Thank you guys so much.